Hey, everybody, Jim Cummings here. And if Tigger were here, he'd say, thanks, everybody, for bouncing on in here and enjoying the show. But before we go, I want you to do me a small favor. Hit like, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the show. Now, speaking of enjoying the show, enjoy the show.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tuned In with Jim Cummings. Today we have Candi Milo joining us, who I am sure you know her voice. I mean, your resume just goes on and on. I mean,
oh, please. I didn't make Forbes 500, a voice actor.
I got writer's cramp. Taking my crib notes. Right. You were in.
But all I had to say to my daughter is, I'm going to go see Winnie the Pooh and Tigger.
Oh, there you go.
And she was like, oh my God, Jim.
How is Miss Gabby?
She's so great. She's so married and she's so great. Thank you for asking. And I feel like I did what I promised God that I would do.
See?
I did. I said when her dad and I were first falling out, I was so bereft and I was so confused and I didn't understand. And finally I looked up and I was watching, he had decided to be divorced on New Year's Eve, which, ruins it for me every year. But I went home and just was sobbing and I thought, I am going to sit and watch Bette Midler. And she is going to bring on the tears and it's going to be great. And she just said, I'm so happy. I'm so happy I can't sing no sad songs. And I was like, well, off goes the TV. And I looked up and I said, here's the deal. God, if you can make me stop crying and you can show me why this is the best thing for me, I will take care of her until I hand her over to somebody good. And so the day after she was married, and it did happen, I did stop crying. I did find out why it all happened. And then the day after she was married, there was a noise outside my hotel room, and I looked out, and I haven't seen a sunrise in decades. I'm a night girl. And I looked out, and then I saw it rise, and I went, I did it.
Well,
I handed her over to a wonderful young man and his family. They love her. And I said, it gave me like a whole new
perspective,
a little lease on life, and I felt like, God, well met, well done, Cand, you did it. And I don't know, and I feel like that is the new thing that I believe. I wish I had done more of it. I know you've done it, but I wish I had allowed life to unfold a little bit more rather than trying to direct it and trying to push my way through it and saying, and this is right. And also I'm a little teeny tiny social justice warrior. I wish I'd let it unfold and trust it.
Well, there's an expression, life is what happens while you're making plans for the future.
And make a plan if you want to see God laugh. Make a plan. And I have not had a bad time because segue, I did meet you. I met this community. I got into voiceover and I had a couple of weird runs, and I said to my agents, I was at William Morris at the time, I don't think this is for me. I don't, there's a lot of characters, and I was like, I don't know. And, my dad was a Bronx stand-up, and was an old showbiz guy, and oh God. And I was,
cool.
Yeah, and I was
Did he play the Catskills?
He did play the Catskills.
I had to ask.
Yeah, and he played the Catskills with Louis Armstrong.
Tell him what the Catskills.
So it's in the upstate New York.
Catskill Mountains.
And there are all these resorts. The
Dirty
movie
Dancing.
Dirty Dancing was in the Catskills.
In the Catskills, if you ever saw that.
And the biggest rock promoter of all time was Bill Graham, and he started as a waiter in the Catskills, and he used to see the shows and used to think, if this guy went on later and let us serve the Bake Alaska, then they should wait to put that guy on until after we serve the Baked Alaska. And then he became the biggest rock, including Altamont Speedway with the Rolling Stones.
Sure, yeah.
And he owned Fillmore West and Fillmore East. And and I'm from the Bay Area, so he was, Bill Graham was my guy, but he started as a waiter in the Catskills, and he learned how to set a show by controlling a crowd of eaters so that they could watch the Dirty Dancers.
Oh, that's pretty good.
But it's great. And I had a great, and my dad was much older, so I have older siblings. And it was just, I had a different idea of what show business. I had come from Broadway and live performing, and then just to sit in a room with Present Company Excluded with these oversized character people, and the noise was nobody's listening. Like you're not given a space for your punchline to come in because you're busy talking over. And I thought it wasn't for me. And then I remember going into William Morrison, talking to Nina and saying, well, I'm going to be single and I don't have any money to get an attorney.
So let's fix this.
And she went, do you want to go back to cartoons? And I was like, yeah, sure, fine. And that was it. 1988 was it?
Yeah.
And that's how long I've been treading the boredoms.
Well, good.
Look at me.
Well, that's so nice.
Yes.
Well, I remember the first time I want to say that we worked together was at Hanna-Barbera.
Yes.
How's that?
How's that? Was it
For SWAT Cats, perhaps?
SWAT Cats? Did you do two Stupid Dogs?
Yeah,
because I remember doing SWAT Cats. I remember going in for a bunch of auditions because that was the best place. Even if you didn't do it there, that was the best place. They were doing all those shorts.
Well,
but yes, SWAT Cat, Aerial Squadron. And I was Angora, the cat reporter.
I've got that written down. It's exactly right. And then you Dextered.
I Dextered, and it was really interesting. I had been really hustling all these bizarre characters that I had been doing in live shows. And I was doing poignant comedy at the time, because if you can't make them drink, make them cry. I don't understand. Yes, poignant comedy where I was the bane of Mitzi Shore's life. I'd have like 5 great jokes, and then I'd break into song, because that's really what I wanted to do was to come to LA. Yeah, like literally hit it. And the late Steve Moore was the piano player, and he would get up and we'd be doing like Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And Mitzi's like,
oh, that was very Garland-esque.
Yeah, she's doing this from the back of the room. And I'm like, hang on, they love the big finish. And literally, they love the big finish. And so stand-up wasn't for me. And I was trying to get on. I had tested for Mad TV. I had tested for In Living Color. I had flown out to New York for Saturday Night Live, and nobody wanted me, which is the story of my life. I call it Little Reasons I Live Alone. And I think, and I went back to cartoons, and it seemed like, Jim, and this is really true, it seemed like it had changed, because I saw you spotty. Like, I only saw, like, the people that I really dug and I liked. You're very musical, like but I would see you so infrequently. And I got in with with another crowd. And then when I came back, I was like, well, here we go. And it's a whole new me. I'm making money for attorneys now. Let's get on with it. And then I had so much more. I had so much more fun.
More drive.
More fun, more drive, more throw it off.
You inspirated.
I did, and I had started with Tiny Toons. That it might be. Did you do Taz on Tiny, the original one?
I
know you were in the room.
Well, they had. Yeah, I did a lot of them.
Yeah,
but they had something called Baby Taz.
Yes.
And I that wasn't me. I think that was Maurice. I think
right.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, little Baby Taz.
Yeah, and I did Tiny Toon Adventures, and then it just kind of started back, and I started working with Ginny, Dink the Dinosaur, Bobby's World, little things, because so much of that time was the directors that we love needed a cadre of people, male and female, that they could count on. That were not going to change lines, that were not going to ad lib in the middle of a take, that were reliable, not jerks, like that kind of a thing. And I think I
have 2 out of 3.
Well, you're not a jerk. I am, but you're not a jerk.
No, but I ad lib a lot.
I do interior. I never do at the end of a line, because I remember that Frank Welker looked at me and went, no. And I was like, all right. He said, because it leads into something else. And I was like, oh, well, why is everybody else?
Not at the end.
Right, at the end of a
that
line.
I knew.
And so I said, why does everybody else get to do it? And he said, they won't be back. And I thought, oh, I would like to be back. And he said, don't ever ad lib, because if you take it too off, then I can't. Then my line doesn't make sense. So
there's a very famous, semi-famous person who only did that, and everybody would go, "Is he done?" It's done right. Okay. And then you lose the moment. It's
moment.
chunky. It's chunky. Yeah, it's disjointed. So, but whenever I do it, I always end with the written line.
What is written. I always do 2 takes, and I always do.
Yeah.
I had a great acting coach tell me, guy named John Keating, the script has the job. So do the script first.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, the script
That's
has
good.
the job, so do it first. And if you have an idea, you say, hang on, I just have an idea. Just as Ginny said, change up the punctuation. You can say the same thing, but you make that a comma instead of a period. And it can be, and I wish more people did that, because it's very tough to be with some of the newer kids that would like to be writer, director, actors. And I just think, I have some online shopping to do, so let's move on, because I'd like to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, some online shopping.
I heard that's how Christopher Walken came up with his style of talking, is when he would audition, he was like, I'm just going to put a bunch of punctuation into this, and I won't sound like anybody else.
Right, to
And
be
then you
different.
Isn't
that funny?
And then he stood out because people were like, why is he pausing right there?
Well, I got a great compliment. I had tested for the Mayan Lopez show with her dad, George Lopez v. Lopez, and it was such a great pilot script. And I tested for the ex-wife, which I really wanted. And the little writer was in the room. And I'm on Zoom, and I'm all dressed up because I know that on the rest of the Hollywood Squares thing that was up were executives. And I guess the new thing is so they don't have to pay you for a test. And they don't have to do a contract. But if you work out, then it's gonna work out. But I did the test, and the writer hopped on and said, "You are the only actor who has done the words word for word."
Oh.
And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Everybody put a couple of words in," and she said, in the vernacular, the way this woman talks, words are purposefully missing. And I said, well, I thought I'd do it this way. And then if you could tell me the words are supposed to be in there. And I was like, that's so great. And so when they let me know that I didn't get it, I said to the casting director, the other women say all the words, right? And he said, she did exactly what you did, except that she was on Orange is the New Black and you're on Space Jam 2. And I was like, exactly. I'm a voice on. But it's a great lesson that I think young people should take, is that, do it as written, because that's what we're all reading.
Yeah.
So if you take it home and go to town writing all your ad libs down, it's very tough. It's very tough.
I feel like especially on camera too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you'd be
It's
surprised.
kind of the job, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. Everybody wants to be on Saturday Night Live.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
I've
you
seen
wouldn't
it
be
all.
surprised. It is. It's especially on camera because it's memorized, and especially if you are like us and we read for a living. Cam Clark had the best line of anything that I have ever heard in my. First of all, I love him. Second of all, I love him. So
And who was this?
Cam Clark. An
Cam
original.
Clark.
So
Sure,
Cam
sure.
says to me,
We all know him.
He was on the podcast.
Can do you do games? And I'm like, I'm not really big on the games. Something is very Dexter about my speaking voice, as is. Like something's very Dexter about that. And I said, and now they use real kids, so I can't really get a kid. And I certainly can't do a gruff butch officer. I said I sound like I'm ridiculous.
And just for the audience, anybody who doesn't know what games are.
Oh yeah, video games are just things
Oh,
that.
I thought you were talking about like a method. Continue.
Yeah, no. Video games.
I
So
did
have
too.
you done a lot of
Spolling games or something?
spelling games. Have you done a lot of video games? And I'm like, I'm not your girl. I've done a couple, but I'm always like a dragon, a crone, and then I did Dissidia, and I'm Shantoto in Dissidia, which was just a really high-pitched, weird thing. And he said, I don't do them either because there's so much mocap. And I'm like, why don't you like mocap? And he said, oh, honey, memorization. I thought I was going to wet my pants. And he said, they don't pay you enough to memorize. I was like, he said, God forbid you got a lead? Are you kidding me? He said, they have to put papers. I have not laughed
No, that's funny.
like this. And I went, oh, Memorization. I said, yeah, no, mocap is out because I don't know what I
Yeah.
look like. I don't have any role.
Well, there's that famous story about Marlon Brando that he would be playing the Godfather and he'd look up and, you know something, I'm gonna tell you something, and it would go like this. And the reason he was looking up is because the actor who's had his back to the camera had, you know something, the reason I'm looking at it was written on it because they didn't pay him to memorize, they paid him to act, and if the words are right there, I mean,
I think that
damn.
is just so. They said in The Godfather.
Yeah.
So the guy that comes in, Luca Brasi, and he says, "For you on the day of your daughter's wedding," and they said that it was Marlon Brando's idea because it worked for him that he had things all over his body because that guy couldn't memorize his lines. So he was reading and then he would forget where he was in the reading, which is why he says on the day of your daughter's wedding, he's actually reading it on that. And Marlon was like, it worked for me, but I guess you have to be able to read. I just was like, and Coppola says this in the extra because, Godfather's my Christmas movie. It's my feel-good movie.
Damn fine, good.
Thank you.
Damn fine movie.
Yeah.
Ching, ching, ching. Every time I hear Jingle Bells, I think, it's...
It's me because they have the one Christmas scene when they go to see, Ingrid Bergman, and then they find out Fido's been shot. I could do the entire movie for you right here. So just so you know, I could, but I won't. I won't.
We'll
Talk to me. Let's talk tunes, baby.
Crack our knuckles and take it away. Yeah, well, I got my notes, and I was trying to think of things that we may have done together, although I know we did Chalk Zone.
Yeah,
and
you're wonderful in that.
And then Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo.
Our buddy Jess. Jeff. Sorry.
Jeff. We were all in Houston together, folks, and we were, and Jeff was there and doing explaining how it was Elvis, and it was so fun.
Oh yeah.
Did you see okay, we can go back to this.
How could it not be?
Did you see the new Elvis documentary that's out, produced by Bruce Springsteen? Mm-mm. Oh, you must, because there are rehearsal of the comeback, and you can see how nervous Elvis is. But I got to tell you something. When they get and they sit him down, and he's laughing because they've got him playing with his band, and everything's around. That is the most beautiful man I have ever seen in my life. And Priscilla's in the documentary. I mean, it is the footage that they have.
No kidding.
Of that special and him getting so frustrated because he's missing the downbeat of his own song, and they're talking about how weird it was and getting him away from. So it's not the one with the young boy that's imitating him.
Yeah.
It is
Right.
actually
Austin
his
Butler.
entire career ending with that 68 special.
Oh.
And I was telling Jeff about it, and he was like, I didn't see it either. Netflix. It's really worth it because the only time Elvis was ever happy was when he was singing gospel. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? And that's the only time he really, I think the only Grammy he ever won was singing gospel. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I mean, it's really wonderful. I thought you would like it because you're such a singer and was such a pro. And he was so unhappy, so ungodly happy. And then after the 68, it was just the Colonel wouldn't let him out of his sight, and he just went down.
Yeah, and he wouldn't leave him out of the country either.
Wouldn't let him out of the country.
You know, that thing with Tom Hanks, that movie you were just talking about, that was
wild. And I remember my dad said something when Elvis passed away, and he looked at the paper and he said, Colonel finally killed him. And I just thought, wow, isn't that something? The Colonel finally killed him. Everybody said he would because he was just running him into the ground. He was
he was paying off debts.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And Elvis was up there singing and getting heavy because he wasn't exercising. And when he was leading up to the 68 special, they have pictures of him coming out of the water, and he was swimming in the ocean, and he was getting himself back into shape. Mm-hmm. And it's always somebody, I feel the same way about Amy Winehouse, how wonderful she was, and her father pushing her, and then she succumbed one time to again, and her body was just getting clean, and she took a hit of
Yanked
whatever
it
it
back,
was, and it
yeah.
ended it. And
You ever seen the footage of her last concert?
Yeah.
I just got chills thinking about it. It's
Yeah.
just, it's gross that anybody would ever let somebody perform in that condition.
She's tweaking and
Like, she literally looks like she's fully on heroin, like
Yeah.
just a skeleton on stage, but still just the angelic voice coming out still somehow
when
through all that.
When she can get it.
Amazing.
And when she can't, she's spitting on the audience and she's out, she's out of her mind. And I was like, it's interesting how lucky we are, you and I and so many that we love, to have found our niche here. And then that niche and the income we earn from that allows us to continue that, which was our passion. I will never forget your drumsticks at every session. I love that. Because that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be Karen Carpenter.
Yeah.
I wanted to drum.
Yeah.
And I only had a snare, and my father used to come out and go, I will kill you if you don't stop it. And I'm like, I'm supposed to practice this every day. And he was
I used to punish my parents. I'm going to go practice. Enjoy the game.
I remember telling my brother when they had their son, I said, where would you put a drum set if I got one? He said, right in the trash. Don't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Do not do it. And I was
kinda
like, because I think that
cramped.
that pays me back that would pay him back for all the times he slugged me or like would come from behind and flick my neck, which I hate more than anything. And I was like, yeah, I'll get you back. I'll get you a drum set.
there you
Drum
go.
set.
Enjoy.
Remember that time when I was 11? All right.
Yep.
So I do remember your drumsticks.
And here's a tuba to go with it.
Oh, here's a trumpet. You carried Louis Armstrong's trumpet on stage.
Yeah.
I think I'll give Nicholas a trumpet.
Nice. There you go. Ooh.
Yeah.
Take that. Right.
Growing up with a father in show business, was there like a pressure for you guys? Because you had plenty of siblings, right? You grew up in...
There are 5 of us kids, and it was a lot of pressure for my dad because I just did a con in Albany, and we did it at this joint, this place, this theater that I have a picture of my dad performing in Showboat in that theater in 1926 on the stage that I was with Jerry Colonna, and they were all doing, and I've got the photo.
How
and on the
great.
back, my aunt who used to travel with my dad said Schenectady, and it's misspelled. And I need to go get it copied off and mailed to the guy because he was saying, we have all the I Love Lucy memorabilia, and I'm getting to it. It's a long story, longer and then longer still. So they were like, we have all this memorabilia, and here's the call for Philip Morris Boy. And I said, that's my dad. And he said, no, it is
He was the guy in the bellhop outfit.
But my dad did it live at that theater because he was with the Gus Edwards Kitty Troupe with Little Liberace, Baby Rosemarie, Baby Ethel Merman, and then the 2 older Gum sisters. And so in that theater, and I said...
But then they actually, like when they were...
Because by the time it came on television, it was the 1950s, my dad was 40. Mm-hmm. So he was a full-size man. Johnny Ravatini, who did it on camera or on television, was a little person and with a really high voice, and my dad was 6. And all the pictures are of my father before that. So he argued with me, and I was like, I'm sorry, we have the bellhop outfit. This is like a really famous... So what that leads me to, Chris, is that my dad's timing was off because by the time television became hip, my dad was completely gray. He was early gray, so he was dyeing his hair. He was on the black circuit. It was just not, and he finally got a great agent, Willie Weber, who handled Don Rickles. He'd done the Ed Sullivan Show twice, and it never hit for him. And so what he did was going from live performances. He was with June Havoc, traveling in Germany. He was on her tour. USO used to pay really well. It wasn't all volunteer. It was actually a gig. And then he came back to do nightclubs, and he had moved to San Francisco. And And when he did nightclubs, television came. So you didn't need to go to nightclubs. You could watch nightclubs on television. So he couldn't do that. He couldn't get on television. He never forgave Sinatra. He couldn't be part of the Rat Pack.
Rat Pack, yeah.
And so it just kind of
Never forgave Sinatra?
because he went to him and asked, and he said, we're going to go with a crooner. And my dad was just this big belter kind of a guy, and wonderful. I mean, an amazing voice, and he just kept missing. So the impetus on me to be in show business was absolutely not. You're not going to do this. I was a really bright kid, and I was skipping grades, and I was really academic. And when we were giggling before we went on air, everybody, Jim and I were giggling about with Kari Payton, I went to an all-girls private school, and it was highly academic. And so my dad was like, just like the Godfather, you're going to be a senator. You're going to be, I had written to Nixon. Nixon wrote me back. I was on a path, and then I heard applause, and I was done. I was like, what?
Wait, that's not bad.
Yeah, and then I have
I know how that,
Yeah, you do know. And
it's addictive, yeah.
It is, and I got into San Jose Children's Music Theater, and I have a big, loud Broadway voice, and I was teeny tiny, and people would crack up.
Oh, that's perfect, yeah.
Yeah, and I was as like him, and I think I had the anti-push. He pushed me out of show business. To this day, if you ask me to sing harmony, I will start my note a millisecond after you start yours because I'm never sure if I'm on key. And so I have all of this drama at my age now. But when my dad left, it was bittersweet because he felt like he had been pushed out. But what my dad did was he opened California's very first home for the mentally ill, called Milo Arms. And it happened in 1969 when the government then...
And that was the first,
The very first, we were licensed. And since he came from being a comic, he didn't have enough money to get us a separate house. So I and my siblings, it was a converted fraternity house. We lived in the Den Mothers apportioned apartment. And then we had 12 men and one woman, so 11 men, one woman in the house. My mom cooked and cleaned.
Wow.
And my dad did radio shows over the PA system to make announcements and then announce breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Welcome to Reasons I Live Alone. And then I just wrote a book. I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and then I'm republishing it because some new stuff has come to light. And I have a brand new publishers, and I'm really excited about it because they're lovely guys. It's Rare Bird Publishing, and that is it's why
I think you should. What was it again?
It is called Surviving the Odd, the fine line between laughter and lithium. Welcome. I should call it Little Reasons I Live Alone. What I wanted to call it was I probably should be dead by now. But I just
you don't
was
wanna,
no.
You don't want to tempt.
I'm just loving these guys I'm working with. I think a lot of new information came to light when my mom passed away in 21. We found a bunch of letters, including my dad telling my mom when he saw me he was going to wring my neck because I'd gotten my 8th speeding ticket in San Jose, and they wanted to pull my insurance.
I was worried you were going to say at birth for a second.
Yeah, me too. I was like, wow.
First when my dad saw me, he wanted to ring my dad. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's like, no. So and a bunch of stuff came to light on while he was in the USO, how much work he did with the service members who then it was called shell-shocked. And
that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and so much of the verbiage in my book, what I wanted to do was do it of the time. And the term mentally retarded is a really pejorative term now. Like nobody uses that. Well, you used it like water because it was in the diagnostic statistical manual.
Right.
That is what it was called.
Yeah, well, retard just literally means to slow.
To slow down. And so they had all these levels, and we had mostly profound. That's what we did best. But I found all these letters from 1942 and 1943. Dear Tony,
oh my gosh!
We want to thank you for all the guys that had shell shocked, all the guys in the hospital. Nobody else would come. You did the show. You sang a cappella. or you brought the trio to the day room. And I found that. And so I rewrote and said, I really think that my dad loved it. Show business, was really good at it. His comedy partner was Martha Ray. For those of you, she was known as the Big Mouth, and Kay Ballard was a friend, and all of these people that went on, June Havoc. It was just a different time, and I think that
that's for sure.
It was what he did from the time he was 5, and by the time he was 50, that was it. It was enough. He wouldn't even get up to sing at events, and my mom would always prod him, Tony, get up, and he was like, I'm done with it. And I think he probably was brokenhearted because there was no other place for a middle-aged man with Snow White Bonanza, like white Lauren Green hair, to go except TV. And he was too old, and then he was frail. And I think he did a wonderful thing, and it was called Milo Arms. And I want you to know that we had a
Milo Arms.
We had a white Chevy van that said Milo Arms Board and Care Home, 297-3670, which was our home phone number, which until 6 p.m. every night, we answered the phone, Milo Arms.
Oh, that's fun.
Like I never had a slumber party.
Venus de Milo.
Venus de Milo.
Arms.
Let me just get rid of an arm. There you go.
There you go. That's very
I know.
good.
And somebody had said when I did end my marriage, somebody had said, would you ever get married again? I was like, no, because the secret's out. Like, everybody knows who I am now. There's just you never know, you never know.
Men talk, okay? You know how they are.
It's very true. And I was like, I can't. Somebody has to come to me completely complete. I can't have any drama. It was like one of those, I shot my sister. Okay, you have to go. I can't be with anybody else where I say. And the fun thing about my book, which is, it is horrifically hilarious. I think so. I remember Ginny called me. She had read the first one and said,
oh my God. For those of you, Ginny McSwain,
and called me and left a message saying, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And I said, I know, but so everybody understands the comedy in the book is because who would give these people to us? Why would you think that my dad, doing the hula, when he got mad on the phone and somebody would be like, we're going to pull them out of here, Mr. Milo. If you yell at them again, my dad would be talking on the phone doing the Watusi and the hula going, yeah, I'm going to come over there and beat you, put him on hold, going, yeah, I'm going to kill this guy back. Okay, well, we'll bring him by for a meeting on Friday. You fucker. And I'm like, yeah, no slumber parties. Not a lot of slumber parties, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of slumbering, though.
A lot of slumbering and a lot of issues.
Not to party.
And, that was a really heady time. We were on the campus. We were in a converted fraternity house that lost its charter on the border of San Jose State University, where my neighbor was a fish and chips, H-Salt fish and chips and a 7-Eleven, and then a fraternity house on the other side. But the home had the requisite that you needed, one way in and one way out. And no sleeping rooms on the first floor so that nobody could sneak out their window.
Oh, okay. And, that's pretty smart, actually.
But yeah, we had...
it was a big place.
We did. We had one, and then after 2 years, we moved next door, and my dad cut a hole in the fence and made so that he could get to work quicker. And I have a photo in my book where we were next door, where we could play Foursquare, my siblings and I, and you could see the guys looking down because they'd be the line judges, whether or not it was in or out. I have no idea how I have a kid and whoever married. I don't know, but nobody knew. When my husband married me, he was like, what did your dad do for a living? He met my dad. He was like, I said, he was a businessman. And the last thing that my dad did was when he gave up the business, which he then tried to get back, which is the last part of the story, he had a liquor store in Oakland.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. Something safe. And he, that's what I said. He had a liquor store.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, but before that, and I said, he was in show business. Don't worry about those 16 years in between. And he said, where did you grow up? So I grew up in downtown San Jose, California, and we lived for 4 short years in Saratoga. And I tell everybody, I'm from Saratoga. California because it's really nice. And I just omitted, Jim. Is it really a lie
No,
if you omit?
You were from Saratoga.
Eventually. Yes, I was. Eventually, I was. And
yes.
I think it's a good book, and we're re-releasing. We're just going to let all the drama of the election, all of that. Let's let that settle down. They were asking me. I asked for a Christmas release because I'd like to. You know this. I'd like to market it and be ready to say, let's sell a lot of books so that I can get on a bestseller list. And they said,
that'd be nice.
Why don't we wait until March until everything clears out and let's let things calm down, because they really believe that the market now is going to be political books, political thrillers. And he said, let's let the market get saturated.
Well, I don't know.
Thing.
Well, that's perfect because it's late February right now.
Yeah. So I think, believe me. And it was like,
this is going to come out in February.
Okay. Hi. And I'm going to even be thinner.
Head to your
when this
Barnes
comes.
and Noble now.
Head to and pre-order. But I think it's going to be great. And I always say in the pre-ramble, which is my prologue.
Pre-ramble is good.
Yes. And I say at the very end, if you don't believe me, I have fucking photos. And I do. I have photos of the house. I have photos of the guys. And I can use them because everybody but me is gone. Everybody but me.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important because people did step in to fill in the gap, and it was a misstep on everybody's part. This was not a red or blue decision. This was a state decision. It was what they decided to do on both sides. I researched this for years. I'm really thrilled because I was talking to Robbie Paulson. It's my secret boyfriend, and he's wrote a wonderful book, and we were talking about trying to do something good with the knowledge that we have about him being so lucky to survive cancer and the humble beginnings he came from, and then mine with this sort of odd show business into the mental health industry, and before it became the complex that it became, and it did become a complex. Yeah. And before that, it was
a lot of it was quote unquote housing of people.
Thank you. And that's really what it was. And that's how they presented it to my dad was they said, we need some place where it's where the term came from. It's like they're halfway to independent housing. We are releasing them. Some people have been in a hospital their entire adult life. They don't read. Yeah. They don't they need skills. And so my dad got Goodwill to come and pick up our guys and bring them to learn how to fix toasters. My cousins.
Oh, that's great. That really is wonderful.
Really, truly, my cousins, we had a bigger house. So we had 3 houses total. And then we did eventually move away. But the first one, the second one we moved into also became one. And then my dad had we called it the building, the bigger building. And my cousin stole a barber pole and then had the barber come there and teach and barber the guys and then teach them how to barber. And it was just like one of those things where my dad was saying housing and a vocation. And housing and a vocation.
That's very progressive for them, I would think. That's very forward thinking.
And I think that he thought that if they don't, they're going to be in the parks.
Yeah.
And now you see that's where it is because people are not willing to. In Los Angeles, it's impossible to live alone if you're not making X amount of dollars. And so kids have doubled and tripled up. It's still not working. You see all these unhoused people and you think, what can we do? You don't want to institutionalize them. No one wants that. It's a prison with doctors. So what we need is what I thought if show business doesn't get better, what I would probably do is I would probably open a home. I know how to do it. Well, I know how to not do it. So how to do it right. But I would love to, when the book comes out, work with the city of LA and say, here's what I learned in the 60s. And then it was all thrown out with the bathwater. And sometimes, and my dad was very progressive, but also his politics leaned practical. And it wasn't a purple household. We were a red household. And it was like one of those things where, because it didn't matter, it wasn't, you didn't identify as anything. All my dad said was, if we don't do something, they are all going to be harmed. That's all he cared about, was that they would be harmed. They would die in a park. They would, it wasn't, they would overdose. It wasn't that. It would be that they'd have no food. And the kids, the students around the area were fed up. After a while, there was too many houses as the fraternities failed, because it became the 70s. It was too many, but I think it's an interesting read, because it's my take on familial and institutional insanity. And again, I say, why would they give them to Candi Milo? I'd have no idea why they would give anybody. But we didn't get the normal ones. We got the most profound, because my dad wasn't a doctor, wasn't close to being a doctor. It was stand up, and he was like, I'll take that guy there. And the great thing is I have photos, so.
Yeah.
Photographic.
I have photographic evidence.
I was going to say, souvenirs, evidence. Or, evidence.
That's it. I was really there. My siblings were there. We all had a lot of skin time in the game. And then I do remember saying that to my soon-to-be ex-husband, what did your dad do? He was a businessman. Before that, way before that, he was in show business. I was like, it's not a lie, not the truth, but not a lie.
Perfect.
Right? That's how I live my life.
That's right.
What size jeans do you wear? Not the truth, but not a lie.
Right.
Mediums.
Yes, there you go.
Medium.
Oh, God, there was a line. What was it, in 9 to 5? But what size shoe do you wear? And do you know the line I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Normally, in a good shoe, I take a size 5, but a 5 feels so good, I buy a 7. And if a 7 doesn't work, 9's usually just about perfect, because my size 5 foot, and it's something like that. So
that is so funny.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that I don't know, and it's why when you and I talk and we laugh and. I look around the room sometimes at the lunacy in our sessions and say, I've seen it and I just don't have the energy to diagnose it, but it probably could.
Yeah.
Like, do you know a little pink pill would probably be really good for you right now? But I think voiceover has been like the most fun, and
it's therapeutic too.
Yeah, it is. But you guys are most like. You're most
carnies?
like my family. Like you're most like I know if you had met my dad, you would talk for hours. He would love you. He would have loved you. You would have talked for hours. He would have showed you the pictures with him, with Louis Armstrong and Cab Calloway and all
That's crazy.
I mean, you would have absolutely loved him. Everybody that I meet.
I can't imagine having a picture with Cab Calloway or Louis Armstrong.
And the Three Stooges and him and holding on to Rosemarie when they were like, she's got a big bow in her hair. And it just is one of the, Liberace was his friends until the day Liberace died.
Wow.
They were friends. And I opened for Liberace at the Flamingo when I was 17 or something, and then
And you were singing?
I was singing, and I actually had a song that the Sherman Brothers wrote for me called Piano Papa, and because I was so tiny, I was little Candi Milo, and I played like I was 12 and I was 17 or 18, and it didn't last very long. Seymour Heller was my very first manager, and it just was like a weird thing because he was moving into the direction of Scott and Up With People, and he was later in life coming out. I had never been with a more gracious, beautiful man in my life. He made an arrangement of the Sherman Brothers song. He got me a gown. They decided to have a man open for him. And then I got to keep everything. He and my dad were friends, and he was like, she's great. She's really great, but I'm going to go in this direction. And but my dad's got photos with him. We called it his wall of showbiz. But you would have loved it. eaten you up alive because you're
God.
so,
That's lovely.
because you're so musical and you're so into the same kind of sounds he was into. And, he loved that Louisiana. He loved all of that. I mean, I'm sorry. He loved all Bayou stuff. And I just think that.
Zydeco.
Yeah. And that's why he was on, I forget, they used to call this, again, forgive me, they used to call it a bastard label. And he was on RCA's bastard label, and I can't think of it, on his little demo, his 45.
How great is that?
And I just think that's why I like voiceovers so much, is because y'all are like listening to Kari talk. And I mean, I'm just saying, it's like one of those where if you weren't in old show business like I was in via my dad,
sure.
you know it. You have an appreciation and a love for it, and that's what I like about being in a room with Tom Kenny, being in a room with Van Partible, is everybody loves where we've come from.
Yeah. I love all those corny old movies, old black and white movies that are, I just eat them up.
Yeah.
I watch Gunsmoke just on account of.
I do too.
Yeah.
Me TV, thank you. Me
pretty
TV.
cool.
It's interesting hearing you guys talk nostalgically like this, because I'm thinking in my life, I'm 33.
Yeah.
And in my life, like I did grow up with like this deep reverence for film and television, but it felt like not my nostalgia. When I think about, when I think back to that, it feels like my parents, specifically my dad, who instilled this love for movies and theater into me. But when I'm just, as you're talking right now, I'm looking here, we're set up, and I can honestly say YouTube is like a huge part of like my upbringing. Like I've been on YouTube watching videos since I was 14 years old. Yeah. And I was obsessed with it from the day it came out. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I mean, we had Brandon Rogers on the podcast. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Brandon Rogers, and he was the same way. He was like, how is this not the biggest thing in the world? Like, we can make our own content and just put it out there. Like,
you are my daughter's age, and she was all over YouTube, and she was like, and we had talked about, me doing a channel, and I said, I don't have, I think with the book coming out, I don't have the self-discipline to like do something, and I said, she was like, do instructional, like put up scripts that you would write, not like we would write, that it wouldn't be real stuff. And she said, show them how to break it down, show them how to not make mistakes in a booth, and blah, 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 blah. And it's she could do it in her sleep. She was like, I can create it. And she runs my TikTok account, and she was like putting this up and putting that up, and I put this up and I can cut that and I'll put the music on. And I say my childhood was colored by my dad, but my cartoon childhood was colored by Looney Tunes, and Three Stooges, and then Fractured Fairy Tales, because that's the rhythm of my dad's comedy. That's the rhythm I grew up with. Like, my dad's big expression was, when he saw something that he didn't like, he'd look at me and he'd go, "They tell you?" And we'd be like, "Dad, don't say anything." And he said, "They tell you about this asshole right here? They tell you?" And we'd be like, "Oh my God," look at my sister and go, "He's telling us." Oh my God. And then we'd all just be doing this. Like, oh my God, he just said it again. He's going to tell this waitress something. And I think that's why that's not my time. I mean, I'm a kid of the 60s. And I grew up in the 1960s, and then my high school years were in the 70s. It's like, that's not my nostalgia, but that is my rhythm. And so what I've done to my daughter, which I'm sure you've done to yours, is that I've instilled music. Like she knows the Eagles, she knows Linda Ronstadt, she knows the Fillmore West, she knows the things that went up in there. Because my television was MASH. I mean, I moved to LA in 79 or 80, and then I've been here since. And I was like, I think that culturally, I went to work so young that my culture is gay nightclubs and cartoons. I went from singing because that's all who had nightclubs in LA. You couldn't go to a supper. There were no supper clubs. I could do my act, in West Hollywood on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night.
Not many comedy clubs at that point.
Yeah, and you couldn't sing. You had to have a straight act. And I remember Mitzi Shore telling me, "You're never going to make it. You're too cute." And I was
boy.
"Oh," and she said, "You're thin. Nobody's going to want to, they're going to, the act that follows you is going to make funny, their act is going to be making fun of you for 10 minutes. And I was like, I couldn't get up. I tried it.
So what the heck you do now?
You do cartoons. And I think that was, and that's when they said, when the marriage fell apart, I remember going in, they said, they struck. And now cartoons are only 4 hours. Remember when it used to be 8 hours?
Yeah, sure.
And she was like, "I think you should give it a try." And I just went all in. I was like, "Okay, here we go. I will do it." And I think that's what I like most about it, is that we all have this underlying language that we get, and the better voice actors pull from the 1940s and 50s, and the new voice actors pull from Britney Spears. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And there's like a little, like the better new actors pull from Amy Winehouse. But most of them, their zeitgeist is very pop light. It's their, there's not a lot of
bumper sticker
humor.
humor.
Bam. Yeah. And it's bumper sticker delivery. And they're watching YouTube to see how people act rather than being out among them. And I think there's something to be said for growing up without a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree. I think that's part of our downfall.
Yeah.
Short attention span theater.
Oh my God.
It's like that's all that's out there now.
Yeah, and I think that it is amazing when you can turn it off. It was, my daughter just recently got married in October, and for 96 hours, people were not on their cell phones other than taking pictures.
Yeah.
And then we faced down. She got married in Santa Barbara. We stayed at a cute little hotel right by the pier. It was so beautiful.
Yes.
She got married at the courthouse. We had a little thing, and then every night we'd come back and sit at the fire tables in our section of insanity. They put us all over here in one spot, and we had the greatest time not on our cell phones. And I said, I don't know what you do when you have a new kid now. What do you do? What do you do? Like that's I don't know. I just, it's not my problem no more. No my problem.
That's right. Yeah, gosh. Well, it galls me when you see somebody, at the mall or whatever, and there's a little infant in there and being very quiet, and they're on the cell phone.
Or on an iPad.
Or an iPad, yeah. And
oh man, we were in where were we? Somewhere in Europe. Maybe London. I don't know. We went out. It was me, you, Katrina. Maybe Darian was there. I can't remember. Anyway, we went to this nice steakhouse, right? Nice steakhouse in Europe. Go out there. Yeah. And we sit down, and the table next to us is little kid on like this rubber iPad, and it's blasting at like full volume in like, a dimly lit steakhouse,
Right.
You know the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And this kid is like, you can see the glow from his screen. You can hear it. He's throwing it on the ground. Like they're like, oh, and they just don't even look up from their conversation and hand it back to him. And it's like,
that is how we are making compliant kids. And I really don't like it. But then I found out that when you go to school, no matter where you go, denominational, non-denominational, public, private, you are given an iPad to do your homework on. And
kids don't know how to type.
They don't know how to type.
We used to have to take typing class.
Well, it's funny because I got my thank you note, which was so cute, and then I got a lovely Christmas card from my daughter with her new last name, and it's printed because she doesn't really. I mean, her calligraphy is great, but
cursive
is gone.
Cursive. Oh,
like
cursive's
I said,
long gone.
That's great is that we have like a secret code for kids today. I could write all about you and you can't read it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
I think cursive died out with my generation.
Yeah. Everything was typed. No, Gabby doesn't. Everything is typed and everything is on these computers, and I say it'll be something that'll bring us back around. But I do think that that's what was great about not having access to all the information all the time from all over the world. It is crazy making. And I didn't use my cell phone for 72 hours during that. People were texting me. I would go the whole time in Houston without picking it up. Because I thought, I'm here to make money, and I don't want to pick it up and hear. Yeah, during the convention, I didn't touch it. And then I would go back every night and look at it for a little bit and say, I didn't miss anything. World is still here. We're fine. And
you certainly didn't miss anything.
No.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. And I think it's one of my favorite old short stories, science fiction. I want to say it was Isaac Asimov. But he writes a story about the futuristic corporation, and it was set, I mean, it's an old show, so I think it was like set in 2021, which was way in the future.
Right.
And there was a janitor working in this big conglomerate place who plans everything for the future and this and that, and they barely live in the present. And they saw the janitor over there, and he had a pencil and paper, and one of the guy goes, I'm so sorry, I have to ask you, what the hell is that? And he said, oh, well, this is a pencil. And he goes, oh, okay, a pencil? Whoa, where'd you get that? He goes, oh, I found a whole mess of them up in the attic. My grandpa, this, that, and you got to sharpen it like that. And he was like, what, a pencil, huh? And he goes, no, what are these? Oh, so you have, well, these numbers. What do you do with all these numbers? He goes, oh, that's addition. He said, what do you mean addition? You're adding on to something? He goes, no. It says like 27 plus 33, and then on the bottom, that's what it adds up to. And he goes, why do you do that? And he goes, oh, that's kind of a hobby. So can you imagine?
Yeah.
Arithmetic is a hobby in the future. Or is it
because you got the
yesterday?
Robots.
Well, it was fascinating because I was somewhere where somebody went, hey, Siri, I don't want to do it to like activate my phone that's here.
Right.
What is 27 plus 65? And I thought, oh my God.
Yeah, that blows me away.
You don't know how to carry the one? Oh my God. I think
you should be able to multiply that, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I just kind of think, well, it is what it is. I'm happy for my insane memories. I'm not really, I think, as worried about the future as other people are. And I got so many questions in Houston about how do you feel AI is? And I said, we're going to get tired of it because people like people.
You know what's crazy, though? What just happened this week, the video game franchise Call of Duty, they just fired like 5 voice actors and replaced them all with AI.
Wow.
Yeah, fired them all.
Well, it's interesting.
And they had been in several games.
We had gone to several meetings, and they were talking about having voice actors strike. And they were going to just strike everything years ago. And they had this one kid that stood up, and I know his name, I won't say anything, that said, I make a lot of money. And I believe they gave him like $100K up front because he was something in some huge franchise. And I said, one day you will be replaced by all the free dialogue that you're doing that isn't in the game that they're cataloging. And that's little Candi telling you that they're banking everything you say from the moment you walk in, and now they have a library. And he was just released off another game. And why? Because
we don't need you anymore.
Did it, and you didn't stand up with us, and blah, blah, blah. And now you paid in, and you have your pension, and you're in your 40s. You have another 20 years before you can collect it. I hope we're all here. But I was like, every time you walk in, it used to be something at Cartoon Network I didn't dig. Like I'd say, don't record us. We're talking. Like, don't, like, you'd have a weird guy who didn't know it, and they were listening in and recording, and I didn't like it at all. And it was one of those, because that's what I said. But what I firmly believe, because we see it every time the technology pendulum swings, it never quite works. For medicine, I think it's great. For speech therapy, like for that kind of stuff, I think it's great. I've seen the AI commercials. You can tell because it feels wooden and mechanical. I saw the robots from Tesla, and I was like, the minute they turn on you, they'll be gone. But I just think that I do believe in the human spirit. I do believe that they will Somebody said, oh, they're going to get better and better. You could tell that was AI. It's going to get better and better. And I said, right, but nobody will have any money to be able to buy the things that you're selling because none of us will have jobs. None of us will have jobs. We won't be able to afford our rent. None of us will have jobs.
Yeah,
So-
you would think that the goal is to have them replace like the menial tasks so we can focus more on important things. But that's not going to happen. They're going to be butlers in mansions, and that's going to be what.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
gonna be what
years
it
ago,
is.
I did this thing, and it was called I think I've said this before, but it was called My Interactive Poo. So right off the bat, you got a loser. My interactive what now? It sounds like Play-Doh. Is that my? Because if you're two, all your poo is interactive.
Right.
Anyway, I'm doing this thing, and it was sort of a talking poo, but it was very sweet. It came out rather well. But at the end of the recording, and I had to say every name in the universe, by the way, every single name. Did I mention every single name? Because there was a lot of names, and S's. You wouldn't think there would anyway. But they said at the end, okay, now here's what we're going to do. And they hand me these pages of what are called phonemes. You know what that is? And it's like and and st and m and me and ma and mo and then n and I go, why would I do that again? And in the midst of her genius, she goes, well, this way, see, all you have to do is take these together and put them in the right order, and it gets a new word, and we don't have to bring you back and pay you all over again. And I was, really? And you just said that right out loud. Everybody, I heard you.
Right.
I can hear you.
And then what is your position on what can you do? Did you do it?
And the guy from Disney went, and he's thinking, that's the wrong guy. And I said, oh, gosh, I don't think I'll be able to. Oh, look, I can't talk. I mean, I can't talk.
Oh, my gosh.
So, and I did. I was that blatant. And I said, and I'm looking at him, and he's going,
oh, my God.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what they did. They used this kid enough. They paid him, probably $500,000 over 5 years, but they had his library. Every word he's ever said, they can use every call to action, everything that, and I forget what the game was, but I know
well, hopefully it's failed.
Yeah, and I think I didn't know that they were doing that. And that is, I say let them. And I think it will, I just believe it. What is the expression? I believe they'll be hoisted by their own petards. I believe that this is going to be something that will be a huge success, but not in the way they think it is. I think I can tell AI and I don't like it. They did it in the new Moana where everybody's saying that it was a huge smash and critics hate the movie. The critics don't like it. And I said, I understand why. People love it because the story's great, but the story was created by AI. Everything was created by AI. And I think that
Moana 2 was created by AI? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
I think that they have, I think that I think Disney is so innovative. They're going to try everything, and then get good at it. But I think eventually they know who their customer base is and that it has to have warmth. And I think that is what's missing from AI. It's warmth and reality. And I'm being honest, I think that it will, the pendulum may not swing all the way back, but I think they need us.
Yeah, I have faith in that.
I do too. I do.
Because it's Springsteen's song, all that's missing is the human touch.
And really, it's true. I saw, I don't know if it was during the Olympics, they rolled out 2 AI commercials, and I could tell right away.
Coca-Cola was one of them.
Yes, Coca-Cola was one of them, and something else where people were walking down a cherry lane, and I was like, this is all AI.
Yeah.
This is all, and because there was absolutely no warmth, and I believe that they will have, that they can synthesize voices now, but it's no different than when Voice Bank went off, and then the guy that bought Voice Bank was using all of our voices that he had on there to find non-union actors that sounded like us. And I actually had coached, which is why I don't coach anymore. I had coached a young girl putting together her demo, and then she went on there as a Candi Milo sound-alike. And I thought, that's great. How you doing? And I had seen her, and I think she is a waitress. But I thought it was so interesting that I thought, I'm still alive and kicking, and when I'm gone, you could have my daughter who sounds like me, or you can AI me, but nobody cares if you AI me. I'm not a major player. I mean, and it's so funny. I'm laughing, thinking this all started and Dexter, because I had replaced Chrissy Cavanaugh.
Chrissy Cavanaugh, God bless her.
Yeah, and
Goslin, she was my daughter.
Yes.
Darkwing Duck's daughter.
And I remember when she left, and they were going to do something with I know, and they were going to do something again to bring her back, and I was saying, please just read me. I sound just like her. Please read me. She was a friend of mine. We had both been called back several times for the Roseanne Barr. She was doing a sketch comedy show that she and her husband were at the time, Tom, and she and Tom were putting together. And that's when we got to, because we had the same on-camera agent. We were having a blast just going on all these weird auditions. And when she left and they were thinking about doing like a little mini reboot, I was like, oh, please see me. Because I can do it. Please see me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Roseanne and I have the same birthday.
Do you
the
really?
Same date.
Really?
How about that?
Wow.
You'd think we'd hang out or something, but apparently,
you're not a big enough name.
No, I'm not.
Who's yours? Who was born on the same day as you? Everybody
Richard
knows.
Nixon.
Richard Nixon.
And on my birthday, I wrote him a letter. Said pretty much I want.
No, you were born on the same birthday, not year.
Yeah, I don't know who's my
just
same
date.
birth
Yeah,
date.
see.
I don't have anybody. I do have several January 9th people that I have met over the years who are also left-handed like I am, and which blows my mind. And
That's
then
interesting.
I had found when Gabby got married, one of the girls' mother that were taking the photos, their mother spells her name exactly like I do. My given name is Candace, but my dad spelled it with a Y. And I've never met anybody, and their mother is a Candace with a Y. And I was like,
Yeah, that's true.
she has to stop it.
I've
'Cause
never
I'm
met
the only
another
one.
Christopher Judge either.
No.
I did one time. I was working on set. One time. I totally forgot about this. I was working on set in Victoria, Canada, of all places, on this miserable shoot. It was called Pup Stars 2. It was an animal movie.
Oh my God.
There was 2 cast members, and then the rest
Pup
were
Stars.
animals. And oh God, those days were miserable. Just in the middle of winter, dark days, raining, everything. Anyway, we're doing this boat scene out in Little Harbor. And so we have these divers on set. And this guy comes up to me and he was like, hey, your name's Chris Judge, right? And then I was like, yeah. And he was like, dude, there's a diver and his name is Christopher Judge. And I was like, no way.
Oh,
and
wow.
the kicker is he comes up and we're laughing. We're taking pictures together. His middle name is Jordan as well. His name was Christopher Jordan Judge.
Oh,
And that's his name.
Yeah, exact same name.
My
I was like, this is
God.
bizarre.
That is wild.
Guy
Your
looks nothing like me, no
no, so
family.
no doppelganger,
no,
just your-
He's 12 years older than me,
Oh my
fat
God.
white guy.
That is
Jeez.
wild.
I know. I was like, what? Because that's not very maybe if it was
No.
Joe Smith or,
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, I actually met 2 Joe Smiths, but only one Christopher Jordan Judge. Well, you're
Yeah,
one
it's
up
weird
on
when
me.
that
Now,
stuff
you've only met
happens.
one, too, so.
Yeah, except
All
the
right.
man in the mirror.
Is it
That is
time for a
crazy.
voice swap? We have a game that we play. on
We
this.
do.
Okay, tell me about
And you're
this.
going to love it to death.
Will I though?
It's called the Voice Swapper Extravaganza.
Extravaganza.
So Jim will start off. He'll give you a line of one of his characters, say Winnie the Pooh or Tig or something that they say. And then you'll imitate that line, repeat that line, but in the voice of one of your characters.
Okay.
And then we'll go back and forth. And then you'll do a character, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sound good.
Okay, so.
Would you happen to have a smackerel of honey about you?
Would you happen to have a smackerel of honey about you? I like chocolate milk.
Cheese from Foster's Home. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so now you give me one, and I'll
right.
do it as someone.
Dee Dee, you are so stupid, woman.
Dee Dee?
Dee Dee, his sister.
Okay.
Dee Dee, you are so stupid, woman. You can't even bounce.
Okay. I feel better now.
Yeah.
Who would you say at conventions, what do people come up to you for the most? Which
I
character?
think there are 3, which I learned, which I'm getting better at these. I feel like I'm still a newbie. It is Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, and they're
Good.
fully aware that I didn't create it, but they still ask me lovely.
Sure.
Like, where did the voice come from? And when
Well,
I
I
was...
wasn't the first Pooh or Tigger.
Right, exactly. And I said, when I was struggling with it, how it was being pried out of me was that they, that voice acting is like jazz. So I'm a jazz singer. Chrissy was a jazz singer. We're both funny. We're both jazz singers, but my jazz is not like her jazz. So my pause is, I got a 4 measure here where I'm going to hold that out. Then I'm going to stop and come in. And she was just this way. And so I remember Candi walking down and saying,
Candi, I understand that you're having
and I went, oh, that's where she got the voice. And I don't know, he was really wonderful. But
Yeah.
I get Dexter a lot. I get Cheese from Foster's Home, which is amazing to me because we had 7 years and he was in 4 episodes of 7 years.
Wow.
But there was something about his quiet specialness,
Wow.
his weirdness, the way he was drawn, that it was highly comedic. It was frenetic. People really love him. And then I get the Flea from Mucha Lucha, who
Yes.
was your friend, Cheech Marin. So when I grew up, they used to play on KLIV in Northern California, Cheech and Chong in full at 9:00 at night.
Whoa.
And I had a transistor and I was supposed to be in bed.
Ooh.
But I would listen to the full albums, and sometimes they were blue, but have you met my dad?
Yeah.
So I would listen to it, and I remember that they did the bit. You know this, Jim. Dave's not here.
Oh,
So he
yeah.
would come to the door and he'd go,
Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's me. It's Dave. Open the door. It's Dave.
Dave's not here, man.
No, man, it's me. I'm Dave.
Who?
Dave.
Dave's not here, man. And they
Yeah.
would go
Oh,
back
God,
and forth.
it's painful.
It was like who's
So
on
funny.
first
Yes.
for Mexicans.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I go to the audition and
Yeah.
I said, and I'm looking at the lines, and then I said, I have an idea. And they were like, okay, what we want is a little boy voice with a slight Hispanic accent. And I was like, okay, hold my beer. I want to try something for you. And I did basically that Dave's not here for that character. And
Oh,
the
that's
Flea-
great.
So
It's like the flea wants to tell you, Ricochet, I'm behind you 100%, but I'm way behind you, orale pues.
and I just went and did this, and that voice used to kill me.
That's
So,
a great character.
Thank you. So
That's
that was
so
Kids
cool.
WB, and
Yeah.
it was the first Flash animation show, so it was very Flintstones
Oh, yeah.
with the same backgrounds
Right,
going.
right.
But but they could whip it out so quickly. They could be in 6 weeks. They could have an episode out, and we were cranking them out. But they couldn't syndicate it because it was so U.S. specific. So I get a lot from the Latino and Hispanic community. What happened? We love that show.
Yeah.
I sell a lot of Flea. I get a lot of Flea gifts, which I love. I sell a lot of Dexter. That's a big deal. And
Sure,
then a
sure.
lot of Cheese. And it's so funny because I really lucked into the voice of Granny and like the
Yeah, I was going to say, what about Granny? And,
yeah, I get very little of that, but I have it's because Warner Brother holds on to the bigger projects that I've done as Granny or Witch Hazel or Miss
Yes.
Prissy, and we do have a film coming out in February.
Oh, okay.
This February, it should be out any day now. It's called The Day the Earth Blew Up, and it's a full-length Porky and Daffy feature. It does have Eric Bauza doing both Porky and Daffy, and I gotta say, it is Mel Blanc.
Oh, yeah, no, he's right there.
He was
He's
on the
it.
show a couple of weeks ago
Yeah, he
talking
was
about
on
it.
He's right there, man.
Yeah,
I gotta
he's
tell
good.
you, he's like in the pocket where you have me laughing out loud.
Sure.
And then I do Petunia Pig, and it so I'm doing all this stuff, but Ketchup Entertainment had to buy it from Warner Brothers. They did a buyout, which was fine with me. But they're hanging on to Coyote v. Acme, which is Coyote suing Acme with John Cena, Will Arnett, in starring roles. And then I am doing a plethora, but Granny in that is the entire B story.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So you'd think that here I am and I had asked our guys at Celebworks, I'm like, why isn't there a Warner Brother panel? Why aren't you like doing why aren't we doing what we do and let me do Sweetie and like all of this stuff and let me come on with what I'm doing now, which is kind of, I'm praying that I'm semi locked in. I have to go meet with somebody there to being, please, at my age, please God, thank you.
I'm knocking on everything.
Wait, so can you tell us anything about the Coyote v. Acme that's not out there, that nobody knows?
I don't know that it will see the light of day.
No. Like something in the movie that the public doesn't know
John
about.
Cena was asked to watch a scene that I did as Miss Prissy. So the boys that do Warner Brother classic.
And she was the little...
She was in love with Foghorn Leghorn. And
yes, and she had the bonnet.
Yes, the bonnet and the glasses. She's a spinster.
Gosh.
She's a spinster. And everybody makes fun of her, and she is madly in love with Foghorn Leghorn. So she's a juror in this movie that will never see the light of day. And they had to have John Cena, Dave Green, the director, told me, because I ad-libbed something. So the boys, and that they said they laughed so hard that the audience laughed over John Cena's line, which was so good. So they wanted to bring John in, and they said, you need to watch this.
That's ridiculous.
Because this is, what she did was gold, but it screws you over.
Does it? Yeah.
Ego.
Yeah, and so he sat down and he watched it. And I said, ooh, when he walks in, I'd let him keep my eggs warm anytime. And he laughed so hard and he said, cut my line. Don't you dare touch that. Cut my line.
God.
So that will never
That
see the light. And apparently...
Now I like him even more.
Yeah.
Right? And he followed me on Twitter and he was like, wrote me a DM saying, you know, I watched it and it was so great. And I was like, oh my God, John Cena, I'm trying to, please God. So I will never see the light of day. And then Granny has it's so brilliant and so beautiful. Her B story is she's looking for her husband, and Granny is in the 1940s. Her story is all animated, all in the 1940s, all a la Cool World. And then the other thing is in the courtroom, but Witch Hazel is an office assistant. Miss Prissy, every time you cut to her, she says some sort of filthy, like little, you can take it the wrong way. That's all she does. That's all you do. You cut, and she's still making goo-goo eyes at John Cena. And then that will never, he is forever my hero. I think the entire crew is devastated. I was recording.
And they're not...
Everybody's devastated.
Yeah, I'm devastated.
I mean, it's so damn funny.
Eric Bowser was telling me, not telling me, telling the podcast that he did like 7 or 8 voices on that show.
Yes. We were he recorded at home. I recorded at home. I was doing something where I was recording the last day. And that was when they gave me the good news where John was like, cut my line, recut it, and leave her. He said that it made him laugh out loud. And then Dave ran, and they were at Abbey Road, and the entire orchestra was orchestrating my heartfelt music as I was talking about my husband. And I'm like, it's the full London, and we'll never see. But when we went, Gabby and I went, my daughter is Gabby, when we went to this teeny tiny con in Wales, we'd stopped off in London, and we walked up and signed the wall because I sorta recorded there. And then she was like, ring the bell. And I was like, no. And she was like, oh, ring it. Grabs my finger and rings the bell. And I was like, oh, sorry, I was just like my daughter. And they said, no, come in, we have a store. And we went and we bought like a bunch of Beatles. It was so dumb. But it was such a wonderful, and we went to lunch.
Was it London or Liverpool?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
London proper, where they were doing a lot. And I don't know if Warner Brothers has something. And I've said, I can't pretend to know executives' minds. I don't know their business model. I don't know what they're doing. I can't pretend to understand. There must be a reason that we don't know about. But I know that Dave Green, who directed this, is devastated, because I'm telling you, as funny as the day the Earth blew up is, Coyote v. Acme is just as funny. And I'm telling you, the day the Earth blew up is butt crack jokes. It's slapstick. It's butt crack and chewing gum. And that's all it is. And if you know kids 10 and under, literally this is for them. But I think it's Warner Brothers, Pete Braungart and Alex Kerwan and Derek Bachman and all the people, Michael Ruocco, who are, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's stupid. It's fabulous. And it's like, that is what I think, because we do have some great stills. I got stills from the movie.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
so,
cool.
and they're like, and what is this? And I was like, wait until February, which is now. Wait until February. You're going to want this. Get it now, because I may be out of them. But I think that maybe like, it makes me cry. Maybe like my dad, I'm always just a day late and $1 short, and I'm trying to change that by being as out there as I can and saying, I just need one little break. I just need one of these Granny / Witch Hazel / one of the June Foray voices to break. And the big break was going to be, I did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer when the woman passed away. There was a 50th anniversary like 10 years ago, and I was voicing Rudolph. Rankin Bass hired me.
Oh, sure.
And then they were like, we are going to make another one.
Rankin Bass.
Both Rankin and Bass died. And I was like,
no.
oh, dear God. Dear God. So I just keep on. I keep on keeping on. I have great faith. I do. I have great faith.
Well, that's all you can do.
That's all you can do. And then laugh. And I've never had more fun than I did in Houston that weekend with all of my friends, all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat going, let's just go to dinner, spend some of the money they gave us for per diem, and let's go out and have a drink or 7, and then like eat dinner, eat tacos, and then hopefully we do something. And I was talking to Robbie Paulson, and I said, my prayer is for him that his book takes off and that he does his TED Talks. And he was saying, talk to my guy so that you could do a TED Talk about how you grew up. And I said, I don't know if you can imagine Carrie Fisher doing a TED Talk, but I said, that's kind of who I am. And that's my situation, where I'm the daughter of somebody that was famous, but we're like the poor family that didn't make it. Like Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher made it. Tony Milo and Candi Milo. It's like, we're still keeping on, but I am keeping on. And when I see you do something like this, it gives me such joy, because they will not be able to replace us. They can't do this.
Yeah.
They can't. Right. How am I going to sit with an AI person or one of like Elon's robots without faces? Like, And then what did you do? Ha ha. What did you do? What did you do? I would be like, oh God, I have to go.
Ooh.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Pass.
Yeah, and that's about
Next.
That's about all I've got like going on. Waiting for, I think the day the Earth blew up is going to be good. I'm waiting for that to come out, and
She does. You don't mean Armageddon. You mean the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, good. But
I
seriously,
wish, because
I wish.
And then blew up. It's a double entendre.
See.
And then praying they release Coyote v. Acme. And then I'm hoping that the book does really well.
Yes.
And my idea for that is that I would like to write a musical for that, sort of a one-woman show with a scrim, so the action that I'm not a part of can take place behind me. But it's kind of a real stand-up version, but with somebody that can sing it besides me, because I'll probably be 80 by then. So nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see.
Sure they do. Well, they certainly want to hear it too.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm trying to figure out how one does a book launch when one is not famous for anything other than cartoon voices. See, the last publisher I had, just so the full Tony Milo effect can happen, is that she never read my book when she published it.
Perfect.
And exactly. And she had played, and the manager that I had, quote unquote, was afraid of the publisher. And so when they put it in the children's section as a children's book, people were returning it because they thought it was about my life in cartoons.
Yeah.
And I thought, no. And also, spoiler alert, my voices don't come from our residence. I don't do that. My voices come from my life as a child, wishing that I could just be part of the Brady clan. Just wanted to be a Brady Bunch kid. I was like, those are my parents. Please get me out of here.
Oh, no.
How would you like to be in my family with a high IQ? Going, oh my God. Oh, every day I'd wake up. And I remember one of the lines in my book is my dad said, go to sleep. Tomorrow can't be any worse than today. And I said, right, absolutely. And then I woke up the next day and said, yesterday was as good as it was ever going to be, which after the first night, that was as good as, and then it was just chaos for 16 years, actually.
Dang.
Chaos until I moved to LA and was like, talk to you on Father's Day.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I gotta sing in some nightclubs and try to be
turn into
famous.
myself.
Yeah, and
That's what I used to call it. I have to go somewhere and turn into myself.
Where did you grow up, Jim?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Oh wow.
Yeah, great place.
Yeah.
But it's also good to be from there, and you can't do what I do there. So
No, you can't.
or what I wanted to do.
No, and I think the thing about lovely mid-sized to small town, San Jose was like sort of a mid-sized town, but a small city.
Yeah.
And it's now Silicon Valley. I would never recognize where I grew up, but I was a little fish in a little pond with a couple of big fishes who were landed families. And, my dad was pushing for me hard, but there was even politics back then. So it was one of those where if I wanted to do, and it was interesting, guys, whenever I moved on, when I was doing something and I couldn't get a lead and they were saying, here's the lead in this show and the lead in this show and the lead in this show, now we're not going to give you another one, you're in the chorus, I would move on. I sang for Marriott's Great America. They said, we're going to put you in the park rather than the Grand Music Hall. I moved to LA. I worked for Disney in Florida twice. They did a country show for me because they used to have a head of talent there that was really brilliant. So I was a kid of the kingdom out in Florida, went back a second year and we did a country jubilee show, which fortunately for no one, I have on tape, a bootleg. And then I moved on from theme parks, sang for cruise ships. They said, we're going to have you only do the Alaska run. I'm like, I got to see ya. Did Dreamgirls. They said, we're going over to Japan. And I was like, I got a boyfriend and my dad's dying. And I just keep moving on. And I think it upsets people when you are, but I say, if you're young and you're willing
resilient.
if you're willing to leave your family and your hometown to become yourself, I will not push, man. And I've said to Gabby your whole life, if schools got ugly for her, we moved.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I just put you in a new school where you could see the same ugly kids.
What I always said is, hey, Jesus had to leave town to make it big. He had to get out of town. Good enough for him. Right? I mean, think of it. Mom.
Let me tell you.
I must be about my father's business, and he ain't around here.
Right, exactly.
Enjoy the wine.
True. And I'm being dead serious. I'm like, and I think, I remember there was a gun incident at a private school that I had Gabby in. And they were like,
I went to, another one.
Yeah,
Probably one.
And I said, we're done. We're out of here. And they were like, what are you going to do? Where are you going to send her local? I said, no, I'm moving to Calabasas. Where I can put her in public school and she'll be great.
It'll
and
be
they were like,
fine.
you are selling. I was like, I am. I don't got a husband. I can make money on it. I'm gone. I left my hometown at 18 years old and drove a Volkswagen Diesel Rabbit with all that I owned to LA and moved into
Luxury.
Look,
No, I'm
Julie,
just kidding. No,
exactly.
that's it.
Let me tell you, I lived above Sunset Sound Recording Studios and cleaned for them because the guy that owned it, Tutti Camerata, was a friend of my dad's through old show business, Liberace, all that stuff. And he owned the studio and he had a home in the back. So I used to go down after hours and clean the studios and I lived for free. And I ate Kraft
That ain't
macaroni
bad.
and cheese. I sold blood to like go to the local stores. I lived on Sunset and Highland bitches.
I did that.
Yeah, because you do what you got to do when you don't come
I
from
did
cash,
that.
man.
I did that in New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah.
Oof, God,
Yeah.
I can still remember it.
I used
Those
to live on
days.
Hollywood and Highland not too long ago.
God dang.
Yeah.
You know, and I
One block
was
away.
happy as a clam. I just was on my way. I cut a demo there that they did for me. Everybody was trying to help me, and I did. I went on to cruise ships. I went on to use all the charts that I was being made. That I went on to sing with Liberace. I went on to do many things, but it wasn't. It all led me to all the
Yeah,
voices,
sure.
and you know that has been a way for me to raise my daughter, to have friends to say, hey, do you guys want to go to dinner? And know that, yes, if you don't have plans, sure, you'd go. And I said, there are so many people that I know that are in working actors and they have no friends, no community.
Yeah.
On camera is a whole different ballgame.
You can even feel it at in the green room at conventions. You can feel it. There's
You
like
can.
a tension in the air. It's like the certain on-camera people. There's some that are cool, obviously, you
Yeah.
know, but it's completely different. It's
we did
such a different energy.
a panel
Oh,
with
yeah.
a lovely kid that was talking about being on a show, and it's me, Jeff Glenn Bennett, and then Marty Grabstein. So Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yeah.
I love that guy. And this young actor says, mostly on camera, and he's got this one show. Then he said, I don't know of a lot of people that can stand up here and say that they have been on a show for 10 years. And I looked at him and I said, except for the 3 people sitting on the stage with you right now,
Yeah.
who each of us have about 5 shows that have been on for 10 years. And I was just like, oh my God. And then I just
You're
said,
not allowed to be that young.
the hubris.
yes. And but I just laugh because there's no conception of who we are as a community and who
Yeah.
we are, like how many times we've been in the ditches and somebody's fallen behind and
Yeah.
you know somebody said if you see somebody and they're not right for the part, you look at Ginny and she's like, they need medical. They're in on a show. That's our community.
Yeah.
And they need medical. They need this. They need that. They
Yeah, she's
need-
done that for people.
Yes,
know,
and
for
I
sure.
remember when I was going through the divorce, and Nina at that time was calling everybody, and they were having me on doing 1 and 2 words, and I know producers were like, "What are you doing?" And they went, "She's perfect for this
Cool.
role."
Yeah.
And it was just, that is when I really became in love with all our pals, and that's when I really saw the difference of, I wonder if this young actor will find community in this, because they are having such a great time on camera that I don't know that they're immersed in this
Yeah.
community. Do you know? And I'm hoping,
Yeah, it's a little different critter.
yeah, and I'm hoping that they do, because I don't see an end to this. I just don't know how AI.
I can speak to one experience I had. I was on a
Please.
short stint on this show called The 100, and it was actually just a crazy coincidence that my childhood best friend, like, I moved around all over the place as a
Right.
kid, and you know, we always wanted to be actors. We made little, you know, videos together in like 5th, 6th grade, and I was sitting in my room in college my senior year, and my roommate comes in and tells me about this show. And he was like, hey, you should check out this show called The 100. I'm like, okay. Like, usually all the shows he recommended me were dog shit, you know,
Right.
just crap. And I'm like, all right, like, I have nothing else to watch. I watched the first episode. I see him. I see my childhood best friend as one of the leads. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, I'm getting on this show.
Yeah.
I am moving to Vancouver. It shoots in Vancouver. I'm moving to Vancouver and I am getting on this show. And that's what I did. I moved to Vancouver,
how about that?
went, auditioned for it, got a part the first time and turned it down. I said, I'm so perfect for this show. Like, I'm not even being cocky. Like, I am perfect for this show. I know it. I see it. Like, I'm perfect for this show. My agent's like, no. Like, you don't want to upset casting. I'm like, they'll have me back.
They will.
They had me back. Boom. Booked the part again, a different part. I said, I don't want it. I said, I want a bigger part. Like, I'm holding out. My agent somehow convinced me, like, no, it's okay. The character dies in an episode. I'm like, whatever. Anyway, the whole reason I bring that up is on set, boom, having a cigarette outside, see Rick, my friend. No way. What are you doing here? I'm like, I'm on the show for this episode. They're like, no way. I'm telling you, the cast of that show, the two leads ended up getting married. They got married. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Bob and Eliza, they got married.
Wow.
And all of them are, to this day, on social media. They go to wrestling matches together. They go to dinners. They are like a tight-knit family.
Wow.
Like the top, like, 6 of that cast, I would say. In my experience, great friends.
And I really, and I will just say, coming home, Jim is behind me. Carlos and Jeff and I had an experience in the airport, and the entire flight we're texting. Then we get off and we're texting on the way home, and we texted the next day, and it's that feeling of, I hope that you find your family. I hope you find, because we did. I would get excited when, do you remember, Jim, when we'd get our scripts and it would have the cast on the first page?
Oh, yeah,
and you had
sure.
your, like, I would be like, oh
yeah,
it's
there's
Ginny.
Candi.
Great. And who's voice directing? Oh, it's Ginny, or it's Andrea, or, you know, like.
Gordon, perhaps.
Oh, Gordon. Gosh.
Gordon.
I remember him.
Yeah.
And what was his wife's name? The one Helen hated.
Oh, I don't know her name.
She was also a voice actor. She was so cute. Her little short hair.
Are you talking about B.J. Ward?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, loved her. And I would get
She's
excited when I would see, you know, E.G.'s on, or, you know, Gray is on, and Tom is on, and it's just some good stuff. And I say that it is the perfect marriage of acting, singing, and stand-up. Because if you do a crazy pass, you better be able to improv. You really better be able to throw it out there. But it's been a wonderful time, and I don't want it to end, which is why I will go out there for the cons and do what I do.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is, and it didn't used to be, but I'm getting better at becoming myself and be better at. I don't need to do every voice. I don't need to have everything that I've done. And I need to
be exhausted anyway.
You listen to you, like I'm exhausting just by breathing. Believe me, I can tell that. I remember when we were locked down, and I was deathly afraid of getting COVID because I had bad lungs as a kid, and I thought, if I get this, I'm out for the guy. Like, thanks so much. Get your affairs in order, Gabby. All the codes are under the computer in the office, you know, almighty. Like one of those. And for the couple of years afterwards, I didn't know how to be in public.
Yeah.
All I did was walk up to strangers and hug them and say, do you want to hear about my life story? Because my dad took care of mentally ill people in our house.
Boy.
Like, I just...
that's like, a real door opener.
Yeah, and I was just like, please just give... And now I'm just much more relaxed, but... I do remember.
This is her relaxed, by the way.
I am relaxed.
She's relaxed.
I'm so happy. When you come from a loud family, and if you know my work at all, I want you to know, of the 5 of us, I'm the calm one. My poor mother. I'm the calm one. And I think that it's hard to find people who match your energy. And that's what I find in people who love cartoons. And in the room, there are often times that I'm not the biggest person. Like, there are people a lot bigger than me. Like, I just kind of sit back, and then also I'm a chick, so I don't get any of the good lines unless I'm playing the boy. I don't know, like,
unless I'm playing the boy.
What do you want to say? Alasky, rest his soul. If he's having problems with that, I can take a swing at that line.
Yeah.
My God. One day off camera, I'm going to tell him a story.
Oh, he went to sleep.
Oh, Happy New Year, night. Happy New Year, night. God. God.
We are running out of time in the
Sorry,
studio.
do you have other questions for
Do you?
me? Do you have like...
I think we're good.
I think we're good. And I
think
talk
we're
so
great.
much. And if you
Yeah, I
wanted to
think
know
we're-
about
No, it's fine.
cartoons, I'll have to come back.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to keep me focused on cartoons. I have a
Take your
great...
ADHD pills.
I am the calm one. I am the calm one.
Well, of course you are.
All right, everybody. That was another episode of Tuned In with Jim Cummings. Once again, I'm producer Chris. Today we were joined by Candi Milo. Thank you so much again for being here. Really appreciate it.
You guys are wonderful.
And I have a bone to pick with each and every one of you. Actually, no, 82% of you. I'm getting the statistics from our stat keeper man, very high secret stat keeper man. And he says that 82% of you are not subscribed.
What the?
Come on.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Cheese and crackers.
Well, you know what I'm saying? I'm pulling my episode.
So
Unless you subscribe. I'm pulling the episode.
Yeah,
Pulling
see?
it.
That's right.
So
you
you
heard
can't
it.
even see her say that.
No.
And we have a bunch of great bonus content on Patreon. If you want to subscribe to Patreon, you can find the podcast on Patreon, and that has bonus content, extended interviews. There's even times where an actor will come in. We'll have a little social hour that's uploaded in parts on Patreon. So don't forget to do.
Subscribe to Patreon. You can read what I'm going to write in all the comments on every single episode because I'm going to join his Patreon and I'm going to comment on every episode.
That's right. You heard
See?
it. So you're in good company. All right. Until the next one, Jim Cummings. I'm producer Chris.
I'm Candi Milo.
We'll see you in the next one.
Woo!